Well, it's time to let the Willis watchdogs out. Another one bites the dust. The second top-level economic advisor to the president is leaving. Christina Romer is the chief of Obama's advisory council and the face of one of his most controversial programs. So what's next for the White House? Let's meet our panel. Al Lewis is a columnist for Dow Jones Newswires in Denver. Mark Levine is a radio talk show host in Washington, D.C. And Ben Ferguson is the host of the Ben Ferguson Show in Memphis. Mark, let's start with you. What do you make of this resignation?
I don't make too much of it. The average Bush chairman of economic advisors lasted a year and a half. She lasted just over that. That's actually very typical. I studied with Martin Feldstein. He was President Reagan's chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors for 2 years. I think her big mistake was in November '08, predicting unemployment would be 8%. She made a mistake that she really shouldn't make. You should never make predictions when you're not in charge. Bush stayed in office 2 more months. Unemployment went up. And by the time that they got in power, that's what it took to stop the bleeding.
Ben,
so it's good that she's leaving.
Ben, do you think we should make more of this?
Yeah,
does this tell you something about how Romer's ideas and suggestions are being accepted by the White House?
Look, this White House has got major problems right now. The economy's so bad, people are actually looking at the travel schedule of the First Lady and how she spends $750,000 of taxpayers' money right now. You have a woman who said, give us a stimulus, and it'll stop the unemployment numbers rising. They've gone way past that, and now we even hear last week from the people on his Peter Orszag was talking, saying, oh, well, unemployment numbers may go up before they come down. Well, thank you, Captain Obvious. That's not helping the average American person right now, and I think she knows that. I think this president does what they do really well. If you do something wrong, we don't really take accountability for it. We fire somebody else for it. And proof of that is when they fired Michelle Obama's best friend with the White House debacle at that first state dinner. Oh, it's not our fault, but that woman, yeah, we'll fire her over there, and then we'll fix things maybe.
All right, let's get Al in here. Al, what do you say? It's a fascinating turn of events. Is she taking the fall for somebody else? I mean, I think it's, Ben makes a good point about how these programs are performing.
Well, I concur with all your guests here. I think she's trying to show us that, unemployment isn't really so bad. I'm going to walk away from this perfectly good job, and I'm going to get another one right off the bat.
Yeah.
I heard she's going to go be a teacher. I also heard she was positioning for the Federal Reserve seat that's open. I don't know what's going on, but obviously this jobs thing is hitting, and it's hitting hard.
If she's going to be a teacher, she's going to have a great pension, so... I mean, what's the problem?
Well, you know what they say.
That might be the best spit I've ever heard.
All right, let's go on to the next story, guys.
Real quick. Just one thing to be fair to Christina Romer, she did want a $1.2 trillion surplus package, and that higher number was rejected. She thought that was necessary to lower unemployment. So had her words been followed, we probably wouldn't be where we are today.
Okay, next story. Come on, guys, next story.
That would have made all the difference, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That would have made all the difference. Yeah, right.
All right, you guys have to hear this story, all right? Do you sit at your desk at work cursing your boss under your breath? Now, I don't do this, but if you do, it could be worse. Memos from the 1970s at Tiger Oil show its boss, Edward Davis, wasn't very nice to his employees. One example, he wrote this: "Don't speak to me when you see me. If I want to speak to you, I will do so. I want to save my throat." He goes on to use an expletive while describing his staff. Al, have you ever worked for anybody remotely like this?
No, not really this bad, but I did work in the Texas oil patch in the 80s, and I got to tell you that a lot of the guys that ran oil companies were just like this. I mean, they were just as colorful as J.R. Ewing. This doesn't surprise me one bit. The thing of it is, when you try to make fun of these guys and caricature them, you can't, because the real thing is better than the joke.
All right. Mark, what do you say?
I agree. The real thing is unfortunately worse than the joke. When will bosses learn that if they treat their employees right, they get more productivity? This guy was going around saying, no levity, and don't say hello to me. That's a waste of words. This is not a good boss.
All right, Ben, what do you say?
It's something about Texas and oil and financiers. I mean, it sounds to me a lot like that guy, Sir Alan Stanford. Remember, you didn't even look at him if you worked for him the right way. And don't question his authority. Same thing with Bernie Madoff. I think a lot of these guys have this mentality that, I guess it's Napoleon syndrome. I'm not sure. But, I mean, if a boss sends out that email, I'm looking for a new job. I don't care where unemployment is.
Yeah, one of the things this boss apparently said was something like, don't talk to me and shut up. Who does that? That's craziness.
That's the nicest thing he said if you look at the real memos.
All right, well, let's move on to the next story. Finally, also in Canada, police arrested a man who broke into a home and stuck around long enough to sell the items he stole on the front lawn. He made about $40,000 before being caught. Boy, that's some neighborhood. Ben? What do you think about that?
Yeah, you know, I'm telling you, I thought unemployment was bad here. You got to give the guy kudos for being somewhat creative. I mean, you know, you're doing two at one. You're instantly turning something. I mean, he could have been a good businessman, I guess, if he would have actually stuck with that. But as a criminal, you know, he sounds like he's pretty much a moron.
Al, what do you make of it?
I don't think he's a moron. I think he's a genius. He eliminated the middleman here. You know, usually you steal something and you got to find a fence to sell it. He finds somebody to sell it. This is like this guy that we talked about on the show a few weeks ago who broke into a bar and just opened it, you know, and started selling drinks. Remember that one?
Mark, what do you say?
Gas prices must be too high.
I was thinking about that, too. Here's what I think happened. I think he was carrying stuff out, and a neighbor came by and said, "Who are you? What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm having a garage sale. Would you like to buy something?" Clever, but not clever enough.
That could have been exactly what happened. All right, guys, thanks for your help today. Mark, Al, Ben, great job. Appreciate your time.